All right. So what type of refinancing options are available for homeowners?
What type of refinancing options are available for homeowners? Well, there's three real main topics for refinancing, right? You have a rate and term refinance, you have a cash out refinance, and what's the third one? You have a rate and term, cash out. Damn, I just caught a brain freeze. Rate
You
and
sure
term,
did, my friend.
yeah, so it's a rate and term. Oh, Streamline and a Streamline refinance, right? So a rate and term refinance is basically when you are changing the rate, the interest rate on the mortgage or the term of the mortgage. So for anyone who's buying a home right now, let's just say you're buying it at 6.5% interest rate today.
Mm-hmm.
But when the market drops, or if the market drops in 2 years, let's just say rates go to 4%. These are hypothetical numbers,
Right.
all right, just for this conversation. Then you do, and if you don't want to take any cash out, then you do a rate and term. So you're changing the rate and you can change the term of the refinance too. Now, what I mean by term is you can go back to another 30-year mortgage, you can go to a 20-year mortgage, a 15-year mortgage. So, but most people, when they do a rate and term, because they want to save money on the refinance,
Mm-hmm.
they will go back to a 30-year mortgage because the amortization, if you spread the mortgage out longer, that will make your payment cheaper.
So it'll make it cheaper for the moment, but in total, technically, you're spending more money, right?
No, not necessarily, because when you look at an amortization chart, right? If you drop, and let's just say in that example, 2.5% of interest,
Okay.
you're paying a lot less interest over that 30 years on a new loan compared to the one on the 6.5%. So on the
Right.
front end, you're going to save money. And let's just say you do it in 2 years. So you might be looking at, well, I
Okay.
have 2 years in a mortgage. I got 28 years left on this current one,
Yeah.
but I'm going backwards to a 30-year. And a lot of people look at it like, I feel like they feel like they're going backwards. And no,
Right.
you're going, yes, technically you are. But you can always remember, you can always pay off your mortgage anytime you want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The goal is to pay the least amount in monthly payment and also interest over the life of the loan, right?
Right.
So, but if someone feels as if mentally, sometimes people can't, like mentally, like, yo, I've been in the house for 2 years and I'm going back to 30, right? Or I've been in the house for 5 years. I got 25 years left. Now you take me back to 30. Well, then drop your term. So now if you drop your term to a 25, 20, or whatever it is, 15, you're short into that amortization schedule, and now your payment might be higher.
But not as high as it originally like
It could be
is.
higher than, well, if you're coming from that example, 6.5 to 4%,
Yeah.
if the rates do drop that low, you might want to look at both options, 30-year and probably a 20-year,
And see what the difference is
with the
between the
difference
two.
in the payments, because
Okay.
let's just say your payment is $3,000 a month at the 6.5, but you're going to go to 2,500 at the 4%.
Right.
On a 30-year. And then let's just say you're going to go to 2,800 or 2,900 if you do it to 4% at a 20-year, right?
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
may not save as much on the monthly payment, but now you save more
On
in
the
the
life of the
back
loan,
end
right.
on the life of the loan, because now you cut your term from 25 years to now 20, so you're saving 5 years of interest, and you add a 20-year mortgage, and you still a little bit less
Yeah.
or even the same payment, but now you're saving the interest on the back end of the mortgage. So people do that. Now, me personally, give me a 50-year mortgage. I want the cheapest payment possible. I wish they can do a 100-year mortgage. I would do that.
But what about interest when it comes to having a longer loan?
I don't care about that, right? Because I can always pay down my principal balance and beat the interest trap at any given point in time I want.
Okay.
So my goal is to keep as much money in my pocket as possible so I can go out here and to invest into other things. That way, I'm not putting all the money towards the mortgage,
Right.
right? So you can always apply extra money to the principal balance to beat the interest trap if you are disciplined. But a lot of people are not disciplined to do that.
Now, when you say you apply or you pay more to the principal, isn't it like? But why do that if you're going to spend the extra money to pay towards the principal? Then you might as well just have the shorter term, right?
Depends on, again, who you are.
Okay.
I'm a risk taker by nature, right? So for me, I'd rather take a risk because I'm a hustler. I'm a hunter. I'm going to go out here and make money. So I'd rather, for me, have a cheap payment, take let's just say they give me a 50-year mortgage, right? Now,
Okay.
let's just say that's going to save me $1,000 a month. I would take that $1,000 and that's $12,000 a year.
Yeah.
I would rather personally take that $12,000 a year and put it to some Apple or to something different. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So you're looking at it as more of like an entrepreneur or investor.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Depends on the person then. Basically.
I can make money with that.
Right.
Right. I can go throw that $12,000 or that $1,000 a month into YouTube ads.
Can you pay
Think about
taxes also with that?
You could what property taxes or
Well, yeah,
income taxes?
Property taxes.
Yeah.
Because then that money would basically
in your mortgage,
if you're saving that.
In your mortgage payment is going to include your property taxes in most cases.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But if I wanted to pay, I would probably, like I said, I can invest.
Yeah,
So what I would do is I would invest it into my business or into the stock market. Because, I mean,
Right.
$12,000 is not going to really get me real estate. So I would invest it into something that can make me a quick return on my investment. Right? So like even YouTube. If I got $1,000 a month extra clean cash flow and we heavy on YouTube right now, I'll put that $1,000 into YouTube ads to get my content seen more. Because if I throw $12,000 into ad spend for my businesses, it's going to generate me more money than $1,000 a month.
Right.
And then now I could take that surplus, boom, pay it towards my principal balance, and I can every month still pay with the original $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's many different things that you can do to beat the interest trap, but that's how my mentality thinks, and that's how I operate. Not everybody's comfortable with that, and that's why most people will go to a 30-year, or if they're trying to pay off the mortgage, they'll just cut the term and pay their regular scheduled payment and let the bank manage the way it's being paid off versus them paying extra principal payments.
So who determines how long the loan is going to be? Because then what if you have equity? Or if it's 2 years in, you could still possibly have equity. Yeah, but like if you have, let's say, equity in the house, does that have anything to do with this at all?
Well, if you have equity in the house, then that's when you go to probably a cash out refinance, right?
Okay.
First of all, to do any refinance, you need to have equity in your house.
That was okay.
Period, point blank. Whether it's a rate
yeah.
and term refinance, whether it's a cash out refinance. So if you're doing a rate and term refinance, depending on if it's a primary residence, you can get higher financing, right? So
Okay.
if it's a primary residence and you're doing a conventional loan, you can go up to probably 95% of the value of the house if it's a single family. If
Okay.
it's a multifamily, you can probably only go up to 80% on a conventional loan. If it's a primary residence, right? If it's an investment property for a conventional, then you can only probably go up to 70 to 75% for a rate and term refinance. And if it's an FHA loan, primary residence, you can go up to 96.5% of the value of the home. That's for primary residence and rate and term refinance. Now, if you go to a cash out refinance, and this is why it's important for you guys to understand the rules of engagement, because that's why when you're trying to pull off your house hacks and doing house hackonomics, and I kind of break all of this down in the book too, how to pull off a successful house hack, you need to understand your exit strategy. And your exit strategy in real estate, for the most part, will be either selling the property, having a plan to sell it, or having a plan to refinance it. Right? So if you have exit strategy, and that exit strategy is refinancing, then you need to understand what does the bank requires as far as loan to value to refinance, right? So we just broke down the primary residence versions of it, but now let's just say if it's a cash out, we broke down the rate and term.
Right.
Now let's just say it's a cash out refinance. Now if it's a conventional mortgage, cash out refinance, single family home, I believe you can probably go up to like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jermaine, probably like 85%, 90% on a cash out refinance.
When you say the percentages, how does that work when it comes to refinancing?
That's loan to value, right?
Okay.
So that means if I say 90% financing you can go up to, that means you need to have at least 10% equity, right?
Right.
But again, think about this, right? If you starting off, let's just say you got 20% equity,
Okay.
right? For example. And now you want to do a cash out refinance. And you're doing a single family property. If you only can go up to 90%, then that means you have 10% of equity that you can tap into.
Right.
Now remember, you're going to have closing costs on refinances, and we're going to discuss that later. So you got to take that into consideration too. So you might not get the full 10%, you might only get 5%. Then you got to weigh out, does it really make sense?
Does it really make sense to do that, yeah.
So and really to do a cash out refinance, for it to make sense, you have to have a substantial amount of equity in your house, probably at least 30% of equity in your house, which a lot of homeowners to this day still do have that type of equity in the home, right? So, and if you're doing a multifamily primary residence, you're probably going to need to have 40% equity because they're going to cap you probably at like 75%.
Okay.
70 to 75%, depending on if it's a 2-family, 3 or 4-family property. So that's why I always say when you're trying to pull off a house hack, especially when we're talking FHA loans and this, that, and the third, you're trying to refinance into a conventional loan, right?
Right.
So you need to know, if I have a 4-family first and I'm buying this 4-family and I'm doing it as an FHA, then I want to do a rate and term refinance to get into a conventional mortgage in a year, 2 years, or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. You need to understand what are the conventional guidelines for a rate and term refinance for a 4-family. And if they say you need 75%, max is 75% financing, then that means you need to have 25% equity,
right,
to complete that refinance to go from FHA to conventional. And in this market where appreciation is decelerating, it's highly unlikely you're going to have 25% equity.
Right, unless you bought during like 2 years ago, right?
Or unless you now use a FHA 203K and you buy something that's under market value, distressed, and you put your sweat equity in it, and now you're forcing your appreciation, and now you're thinking like an investor versus buying at the retail, the top of the market, you're buying below it a little bit or a piece of shit, and you're putting sweat equity in to gain that equity that you need to refinance out of it. And mind you, at the webinar this weekend, I'm going to break this all down.
When you say sweat equity, what do you mean by that?
Sweat equity is basically when they say it's like a figure of speech, like when you put in your own work, when you work on your house.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right? So that's sweat equity. That's if you personally are working on your house. Gotcha. Right? But I just say sweat equity because I'm just comparing it to like rehab, basically. Right? So I say all this to say, you need to understand your exit strategies.
Right.
And your exit strategy in the refinance, you have to understand loan to values because these guidelines change all the time.
Right.
Now, if you're trying to do a streamline refinance, now streamline refinance is if you have a current FHA or VA mortgage.
Okay.
And you're trying to do a rate and term refinance, but in most cases, when you do a streamline refinance, if you're staying from FHA to FHA or VA to VA, you don't require an appraisal. And it's less income documentation that's needed. Because as long as you've been paying on time, you have good credit scores. With this program, with the Streamline program, it's basically like you can just refinance. But you have to stay FHA to FHA, and you have to save a certain amount of money. It's like a whole calculation that we have to do on our end.
So that's if you're staying with the FHA loan
FHA
to refinance
FHA.
Into a FHA or a
exactly.
VA, right?
You do an FHA Streamline loan or a VA Streamline loan, which is like during when the rates drop crazy.
Yeah.
Yo, killed it.
Oh, so people so
killed it.
Lower rate and can't
killed it. People going from 4 or 5% to 2.5%. Streamline, no appraisals. Boom, boom, boom. Quick closings. Boom.
What do they? You said so they needed to have a certain amount of money saved.
No, you just need to have equity in your house to do it. You need to have
just equity.
You need to have your payments paid on time, and it has to make sense where you're saving money.
Yeah, so at that
There's
time,
less closing costs.
You're probably busy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we killed it. Like we killed it. Life was good. Life is still good, right? We killed it. So, and this is why a lot of loan officers, to be honest with you, are struggling right now because they wasn't dealing with the purchase market or people buying homes, they were dealing with the refinance boom. But don't worry, my loan officer friends, don't worry. We will have another refinance boom coming soon. And we will be able to kill it once again. Those of you who focus on refinance. See, I focus on everything.
Yeah.
So for me, if refis go away, see, when rates go up, refinances go away for us. It's not a lot of them. It's few far in between because it just doesn't make sense at these rates, depending on who you're speaking to, right?
Right.
But when it drops, bing, boy,